Good morning.
Goodness gracious. Curt and Brandon, as my grandmother might have said, the bee's knees.
Well,
I like your grandmother.
That's good.
tell us about your grandmother, Brad. What's she like?
Grandmother was she was from Marietta, Ohio, where her family landed after the Revolutionary War as they were giving land grants to the officers. I don't know if they were giving them to the enlisted as well.
Yes,
She was educated in Boston,
proper lady.
then went west,
Was she from Boston?
Marietta, Ohio.
No, but she was educated in Boston despite
Family is from the Massachusetts, yeah.
right. So, and what was their name?
Hulbert.
Oh, fuck, we're related.
I'm sure.
Figures.
I'm sure. Those, yeah. The Stacys were the branch that went to the Ohio.
Mhm. These New England fucks, they really settled the whole goddamn good part of the country, you know.
The Indians have a name for them. They call them Wachichu, which is who takes the best parts.
They have a way with words.
They do. And I'm like, I think that covers it. It's like, yeah, they take the best parts. It's like, that's what they do.
Well, today is Sunday, January 1st, 2023.
Happy New Year's.
And I started out the late morning with a prayer that it wouldn't be like the past year. Well, actually,
It won't be.
And like the past 3 years.
It won't be.
But I heard this laughter in the distance. I couldn't quite figure out the direction. It ain't gonna happen.
It'll be worse. I'm afraid it's going to be worse. It's like,
oh shit.
Sorry.
But we soldier on, right? And to help us soldier on, what is it, Bled? Like, subscribe, do your thing, like, subscribe.
Like, subscribe, hit the
Bell.
notification bell, leave the glorious comments below.
And
wait, and Curt, share your screen so they can show where they can donate to the Natural Law Institute if they should choose. Guide them a little bit.
if we could, where's my share thing? Share screen.
You even practiced this a minute ago.
Well, I'm a slow learner. Why are you seeing that screen?
Oh, no.
I need a special ed teacher for this morning. Desktop two, share. There
you
Law
go.
Institute. Right?
Okay. That's the website.
All right. So we have at the naturalinstitute.com. We thank Brandon and I have been, well, it's more like Brandon has been disciplining me to get the website in order.
Attaboy.
Babysitting, maybe that's what it is.
Whatever it takes.
So we have this all set up, but under participate, we have a new donors menu. Hello. We have a donors menu, and you can make a monthly donation or a single donation if you want to. You can sign up and register, or you can sign up as, pick whatever level, blah, blah, blah. Right. You can also make a one single donation, which is, we get quite a few of, which is kind of nice. That's just, I don't want to get hooked to anything, but I want to give a little bit. And this is all hooked up, and the spammers who were charging, they ran a bunch of, I had to take the $3 one off because the spammers had were testing credit card accounts using our site, so we had a little game there. So I refunded, I think, I don't know, it took a week to catch it. So like $33 charges that they got through. They use it to validate credit cards. Anyway,
The Law Institute. Working with the criminals.
yeah. Well, I didn't know it was such a thing. You know what I mean? It's just-
Law generally works with criminals.
well, the stuff I generally work on is not WordPress, right? The WordPress is the sort of software we're using here, which is pretty secure. But I mean, if you write something yourself, you can put all these things inside that protect it, right? Which I can actually cite the rules off the top of my head, but they don't come by default in this software, which is kind of odd to me. Even the plugins don't default against the most common ways that fake accounts are made. So, but anyway, so the way you handle that is just really, you just put a CAPTCHA up front, so it's just harder for them to automate.
Which
Anyway,
is funny. There was a patient of mine said this. It's a peculiarity of the age that we live in a moment when the computer asks you to prove you're not a robot.
yes. Anyway, all right. So so that we've entered. So it's the first. Now, Brad says we should think about renumbering the episodes, and I want to think about that, because right now we put on the episode number, which is just a sequential number, right? And we put on the date. Now, I used to put it the date, the episode number, and the title, but given the games YouTube puts on the limits of titles, I've now done the episode number and the put the date at the end. I've started switched to that. But Brad has an idea, and so we were previously, it was just we started the year, which is 22, right? When did we start at?
Yes.
2000 last
Just
year.
finished 22.
So we want to go jump to 23 something.
My thought was to name it year, two digits for the year 23, 2 digits for the month we're in 01, and then 2 digits for what episode during that time frame.
Yes, and the only problem there is we don't know if episodes are missing. No, we do.
I
know.
will.
No, we do.
I will.
We do know.
And
'Cause
but we're trying to make it easy on the archivists who will follow.
Yes, I think that's okay. So we can start doing that.
How about that?
We'll start doing that. Okay. Are you in charge of that, Brad? Because I'm not really.
I'm calling this episode 230101.
Okay. All right.
2, 3.
Great. I've been using if I can pull up our YouTube quickly.
I'm getting my fresh coffee.
You are.
Yes, sir.
Where is your channel? Your channel. All righty.
You do 2 of these a week?
Brad and I do 2 of these sessions a week, at least.
You're gonna run out of episode numbers.
I'm not going to have 100 in a month.
Or a year. You're breaking them out per month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work. So what I've been doing is tagging these,
Yeah, I see it.
right? So
Date and then year, or number, date and number.
so, but I've been I've been doing this, right? And then I was like, well, why don't I just have this, right? Because that doesn't really matter. And so I did it here. You can see this. And so I've got it broken down into just whatever's this is basically the sequence they come out in. These are our chats. And I've been giving them. I want to see this one. Which order we in? Okay. So chat, where the hell is the listing? Twenty. What the hell is going on here? Did we lose a lot of chats?
We were, last I recall, we were around,
These are the old ones. We're getting the
those are
old.
really old.
And this is 7 months ago.
Are you
Yeah.
in,
Did you
are you
show
in
me?
playlists?
We were on
There you
2108.
go. That's 4 months ago. 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks
Okay,
ago.
all
There
right,
you
all
go.
right. Got scared there, sorry.
I understand.
So I've been just saying it's a chat, it's a staff meeting, right, a session.
Right.
So that people can tell the difference between them. Because, some people, they can't sit through you never know. We have people who love sitting through 2 or 3 hours of this stuff, right? And then some people did just want to hear us do ordinary chats. Right, so. All right, so we have the point I was trying to make is that we have, the various chats we do combined, right, excuse me, into this section. I have the method videos, the choice videos, the thoughts, the foundations, the original ones we did. Right, and I might have to get rid of some of these but I really like promoting,
Right.
these guys because they're sort of required knowledge now. I think what a playlist, what have I got here?
Oh, that's good.
No, I don't have any. So what I've been wondering about is, do I need to break out sessions? And I just feel like that's overcomplicating it. What I like is the timeline effect of all our chats. What I think I'll start doing is I'll start making, what do you call these? Thumbnails.
Playlist?
I'll start making thumbnails.
Hmm.
For them this year, because it's just too, and they've got, there's just tools for everybody, right? So and the thumbnail makers are pretty easy, so I'll start making thumbnails that help clarify what each kind of thing is. Not that I don't like looking at everyone's smiling face.
No, I know, right. But I really don't approve of the use of your time in such a fashion, sir. So that was the sound of the.
I can't think hard all the time. So like if I wanted to add this video, right? Let's do an example here. I'll show you. Let's just answer that question. I gotta check something. This is a staff meeting. So here's a staff meeting from the 29th. All right, so this is the 29th staff meeting. So I would, in order to do that, I would.
We just have the YouTube page, Curt. I don't know if your share
I
screen.
know. I don't want to show it's on everything in my system.
Oh, you're in the back. Got it.
And so this is how a video gets recorded, right? So I just do 2022122929 staff meeting. And I don't know what episode that is. Right. I do that. And then I upload it. I don't think I can drag and drop it from here. I think I have to. I have to do this. Go here. And I'll get rid of, I haven't updated this. Yes, I have updated that. Okay. I've added the donations here. And I've taken off the Discord. Added that a bit. So all you have to do is it chooses a thumbnail for you. Right? So it automatically chooses that thumbnail. And so I'm not going to pull it up right now, but basically all I have to do is go to a thumbnail maker template and do that, and then copy paste, right? And I get the thumbnail.
I understand.
So I just, it's another 5 clicks for me to do that. And then you just answer the dumb questions and publish it. Now it says, and then down here's what's going to happen. Well, Curt, if that's all it does, why do you get 10 or 11 videos behind sometimes? Well, just because I'm so
things that make you go, huh?
Just fucking cuz, okay?
Are they assuming you're not a human?
Well, I don't know. Don't you? I'm always amazed at why people. There's some people that are respectful of your time, and some people are not. I don't really mind people being disrespectful of my time at 8 o'clock at night, because I can't fucking think hard anyway. I mean, I'm probably just going through to, really at 8:30 at night. I just go through all the papers like SSRN or whatever that have been uploaded. And if I find something interesting, or I go to, or even better, go to Ralph Degan's site and, just pull his stuff down. And I just look through the stuff that's been posted, the papers that were posted today. And I'll just skim through the abstracts until I find something interesting. Right? I can do that for like hours. Right? That's not hard. But if I have to sit there and compose text, I can't do that when I'm tired. All right. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get out of here. So we can go back to that. And we're going to get out of this. It's not, we've got all this stuff. I'm actually surprised YouTube doesn't add more features to that process. Because there's really most of the stuff now is proceduralized so much that there are offline applications that do it all. So if the offline applications can do it in 3 fucking screens, why is YouTube doing it? Anyway, quality filter. Why am I talking about this nonsense? You guys don't give a shit. All right. So, Brad, are you more alive today?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I saw my greater than 20 patients this morning. Was able to straighten out some minor irritations from the computers and other electronics around the house that were acting funny because of batteries, etc. But here I am stabilizing. I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee, and I've got the right cup today. I had some sleep.
We got to get Brandon one, but it's like that. We got to get our. I want this exact cup, and the company's out of business. That's why you can't get this stoneware. But there's very close ones. So we get that, and we get some. We call it. We get our logo on it, and then we'll all have one. Okay, I keep stalling to see if you guys will add some content here, and it's not happening.
Oh, is that it?
I keep buying some time here. I can talk shit all day long, really.
Showed everyone the new organization on the website. You tell people we want to source merchandise from America. Give us your ideas. We want to put the natural law logo on it and stuff. And now we're getting to business.
Yeah.
So Brad, you know, you've had a lot of think time, all right, and you've thought of some things. And I want to make sure that if you're going to think about these things and you want to talk about them, that we give you the opportunity to talk about it. And so, but if you say, Curt, I don't want to talk about any of that stuff, that's okay too. But
I'm shy because I don't know where the edge is. You know, it's like there's an edge here.
Oh, I see.
Okay, I don't know where the edge is, and I'm like, okay, it's of a political nature, and it's
okay. I think that's okay. So that's
that's my reticence.
That's enough. Okay. Well, good. We don't have to push for that then. So does anybody have any observations about 2022 or hopes for 2023? Not that we got
hopes. I'm like, I'm hoping we can avoid a nuclear war. That would be great. I'm hoping I can lasso the hospital into making some preparations in case we do.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm not talking about Chinese here. I'm talking about Russians. Russians are what they are, but they're not crazy.
I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the globalists and their pernicious influence on the world events.
I'm thinking they are getting nervous. I dropped my mouse on the floor. They're getting pretty nervous. They don't like the way things are going. So I don't have any.
The question is, how far down the wrong rabbit hole will they be willing to poke their stupid neck? Because it's like they're gonna double down at lying and bullshit, but it's like the question is, are they going to attempt to provoke the Russians into acting out? And that appears to be their modus operandi for the last 150 years. So it's like, that's what I expect. They may cause the Russians to be put into a corner where they will insist. And that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, what happened? Okay.
I pray you're correct, sir. And that will prepare in case you're not.
Low probability.
What?
Very low probability.
I know. I already have a Geiger counter. I bought one in 2008.
You know, I'm teasing you, all right? This isn't serious. I'm just thinking that tinfoil will fit on your head better than mine.
I believe you're correct. You think it's an accident, do you? Mylar is preferred, I'm pretty sure.
I'm so screwed now. We said this yesterday. It's like I can't use any of this, my goddamn anti-conspiracy rhetoric, because fucking hey, you know.
Right, the new joke appears to be that conspiracy guys are right, just right. Just right.
Well, but if you know, of course, I've been through the Musk releases, right? And the evil people are quite distant, right, from the idiots who work in these bureaucracies that believe they're doing good.
Right.
Right. And so the problem is we don't have enough education or constraint on people who wrongly believe they're doing good, or don't understand that they are crossing lines. It's like the Nancy Pelosi's like typical woman, crosses lines she doesn't understand because she's a woman and a leftist. Well,
that's
I mean,
apologetic.
Well, let's take an Adam Schiff, who is a man and knows what he's doing. right? And he's crossing lines. It's all the whole, again, the point is that, you know, there are people, because there are people like me on the opposite side who really think strategically and think about how to manipulate this and do it. The difference is their whole thing is lying instead of how can we lie and get people to go along versus how can we tell the truth and prohibit people from lying, right? And get people to go along with what's true versus what's socially constructed falsehood. And so, yes, we're right. There are people who conspire. There is the globalist thing, which we know is largely Jewish, that believes they should rule, and they should have been working for centuries to replace European rule of law with Jewish rule of financial law, right? And so they have been trying to do this for a long time, and it's only rational that people pursue their interests. That's okay. They actually believe they're right. They're wrong. So women actually believe they're right. They're wrong. And what are we going to do about it? Well, we're gonna say we have to be men and say, we're not equal. Sorry, this is the way it is. You cannot. As I've said that recently. It's clear that women can understand, but it's not clear that they can think. I'm sort of sticking with that model as the summary judgment of what women are capable of in the political arena.
The feminine mind isn't thinking.
The feminine mind is not thinking, it's feeling. Or it's predicting emotions and reactions. It's not predicting outcomes over time.
It's predicting subjective states,
Yes.
not objective states.
Right.
We have a economics of the immoral. So all the incentives pool power towards what looks like evil, regardless of whether or not there's intent.
Correct.
Right.
And they're wielding all the time your ability to live in the moment and move towards a global average, which drives down the behavioral average necessary to build a civilization everywhere. So their instincts to include everyone are wrong, and they're causing problems.
But it feels right to them.
Yes, of course it does.
Because they don't think, they feel. Or the correct answer is they may understand. I like the fact that they can understand, but not think is a really great, because thinking is calculating, right? They can't think and predict in time. And even Peterson, it was so funny to have our ideas come out of Peterson the other day through a proxy, saying the same thing and saying a very similar thing about the women's intuitions do not scale. The feminine intuition doesn't scale. And that's the fundamental problem. And normalizing that understanding by continuous recitation, in other words, counter social construction. Countering the lie, social construction is a lie versus popularizing the truth is different. Communicate the truth is different.
It doesn't scale because it's overreaction to threat to mitigate possible risk. And at the group level, there's less risk.
It's a correct reaction to what would occur, emerge as conflict.
Correct.
They avoid the responsibility for conflict mitigation by advocating. So it's like I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. And you just don't, everything a woman does is reducible to the evasion of responsibility for conflict mitigation.
Harmony, not excellence.
Right. And our thing is evolutionary excellence for the group, pushing down responsibility for adaptation to the females and theirs, but they want to avoid the responsibility of adaptation because that's a means of their hyperconsumption, is avoiding the responsibility for enforcing adaptation. And so that's what they do. All they do is avoid responsibility. And so, or I say avoid. Yeah, somebody tried to get me to stop using evade the other day. Was it Murray's? All they do is avoid responsibility. Well, is that really true? Well, what did they take responsibility for? Themselves, and and I was gonna say their offspring, but it turns out that the way women think about their offspring is an extension of themselves, right? Because they work by solipsism and empathizing, solipsism and projection, right? And so they project into children, which is what they should. They take information in, they predict outcomes, and they project themselves. So they say they're trying to get them to change. It's why it would make no sense to us when they say, "Well, you just want to do this," because they would need to have that emotional incentive to do something, and we wouldn't. We just don't have that emotional incentive to do anything. Again, the big problem of the age. So how do we normalize this? This is the real problem, right? How do we renormalize the polarity of the sexes and the binary nature of the sexes and the combination of the binary causality of the sexes and the overlap, so that we can actually solve the problem, the political problems that women are getting us into? Because if we don't, we're going to end up with usual conservative overreaction.
The feminine mind is getting us into these political problems.
Right.
It's being driven by we were alluding to it, the evil sorcerer types that are summoning these man-made entities for the purpose of controlling the populace, for the purpose of manipulating the future events in their interests.
Well, yeah. And I'm gonna. How did you just say that? Some summoning in the. So the answer to them is they believe they're eliminating conflict too, by creating dependence, right? By constraining they believe they're constraining evolutionary adaptation, right? But in other words, those of us who are forcing evolutionary adaptation on people who don't want to adapt.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So they believe they're doing good.
Well, they're right to see that the children need limits.
Right.
But they're keeping them children.
Well, it's because they're afraid of the competition by truth, because the competition by truth truth is only necessary as a means of conflict resolution. Or adaptation and change, right? And that's what the reason why do we even have the concept? Why do we even need it? It's because we disagree. Why? Because we don't interpret the world as true. We interpret the world as whether it benefits us or not, or we can make use of it or not. So that's why we need true is dispute resolution. They don't want the world to be true, right? They want it to be free of disputes so they can maximize their hyperconsumption.
They don't want the world to be true if it lowers their status.
Say again?
They don't want the world to be true if it lowers their status. I'm trying to explain to people that if you saw the world as true, it would raise most people's status. It would lower very few people's status.
Yeah, let me clarify that as they would see that as equality. And what you mean is equality of respect, which produces a status despite your status in the hierarchy. We can all have equal status and respect without having equal status and responsibility. And the difference, that's not particularly difficult to accomplish, right? Matter of fact, all religions are seeking to do that. Make us have respect one another somehow, by some means or other, despite the fact that we have to have a hierarchy. So, I mean, if the way you solve equality is respect. The problem with respect is you need relative homogeneity to produce respect despite hierarchy. Because because every conflict, right? Every conflict between the search for power, in other words, which is usually a group interest, every group interest, which creates a conflict and the search for political power to suit their ends, basically decreases homogeneity and therefore causes increase in the pressure to use all sorts of behavior to force people to adapt to a norm when you're basically generating normative warfare, right? And so, of course, you can't respect people who are competing with you normatively. You can't do it. So you can't create the equality we need, which is respect, respect for doing your duty regardless of your place in the hierarchy. In other words, that's the kind of equality that matters. Right? We can't do that under diversity. And one of the reasons they're advocating diversity is to make it impossible for us to maintain the normative economy and to generate conflict.
Optimal normative behavior is cooperation, meaning the things that will differ are traditions. What people need to understand is that they're generating conflicts, right, or evading them, and how to work out their issues at a locality where they are.
Right. Well, that's what what do you call it when you bring somebody in and they have to adapt to your culture? Integration means.
Integration. Correct.
Integration is attempt to
Assimilation.
Assimilation. Assimilation is the purpose of assimilation is to provide the incentives to adopt the host people's traditions so that you obtain the same mindfulness by the same means, right? Now, one of the ways we do this, we preserve this, is we just preserve it in our foods, right? That's it. So it tends to be food is the way we preserve our tradition without hostility. Matter of fact, everybody likes diversity of food types, right? But everything else, what you're trying to do is make everybody feel, in other words, have childlike intuitions, right? The dreams of a child, God as a child. You're trying to have these childhood intuitions provide you mindfulness by the same means in the society. And so that's why you want, what did you say, Brett? Assimilation.
Assimilation.
Is I want to assimilate and we want to, what was the word I used?
Integrate.
Integrate them. We want them to integrate and they want to assimilate. Right? They need to assimilate. And so the process of assimilation is really to prevent conflicts in normative economy that prevent us, that cause us to disrespect each other as a means of coercing people into having the same norms, right? That's the whole point. Norms, traditions, values, institutions, and especially those mindfulness intuitions that we know we're doing good and no one is going to be threatened and whatever. And that's when we can be respectful of people. When we respect people is when they're no longer imposing costs upon the commons, especially the normative commons, right? So you don't respect people who don't behave properly, right? Well, we don't respect people whose norms, traditions, and values conflict with ours. Now, people will come back and they'll say, well, that's relative. It's not relative. We have higher trust norms. Those higher trust norms mean they're more, that's where we get our high quality of life from. So those higher trust norms require you to take on more responsibility. But those cultures from those people, they don't take responsibility. Matter of fact, their cultures, traditions, norms tell them they're good when they don't take on responsibility.
So long as there's gain.
What?
So long as there's gain. Yep.
Right. So in some cultures, your thing is the family at public expense, or it's the clan or the tribe at national expense, at public or national expense. In ours, it's quite the inverse, which is completely ridiculous. It's the commons at personal and familial expense. Why? Because when we all do that, everything becomes cheaper. I mean, policing, trust, everything becomes vastly cheaper, and that lowers costs for everyone. Which again is how we produce equality. And the left can't even conceive of this concept. Is that we create equality through the production of commons that limit the need for income.
Commons via individual sacrifice. They do the opposite. It's commons via individual sacrifice, right? Voluntary individual sacrifice for the better, the group.
So what they don't get is we pay extremely high behavioral and psychological taxes. Right? What they want is more monetary taxes so they don't have to integrate and adapt, so they can continue to cause conflict between the classes, races, genders, and tribes, nations, and whatever. And so they're trying to, all this demand for redistribution without demand for integration and assimilation is generating exactly the prohibition that they're generating the exact prohibition that their demand that prevents them from getting their demands. Whereas the opposite is true. If you integrate and assimilate across that spectrum, I'm sure you can maintain your. I mean, the world is better with Italian food. Sorry, it just is.
Wait, what?
The world is better with Italian food. I mean, just is a better place. All right. Now you can't say that about Irish food. I mean, boiled potatoes just that doesn't do it for you. And cabbage, I don't do cabbage. All right. So I'm not too far enough Asian food either, but anyway, Japanese food is good. So if you bring your sorry, I have to I just have I was serious for a long enough arc there that I feel the need to add levity. So the economics we're dealing with here is this problem of they don't want to adapt because they want mindfulness by not adapting, except their failure to adapt is what's prohibiting the mindfulness in the context they have, generating the conflict that prevents them from being respected, and generating the disrespect prevents them from getting redistribution, and we're not getting redistribution because we're not reducing the cost of commons that would be produced by their integration and assimilation, which would mean that complete the circle that would get them what they want. So what you really mean is, I want it my way, mommy, daddy. I don't want to change. It's fucking childhood, and that's what the left does. It's feminine, infantilizing, as a means of what they think of as caretaking, but is really just selfish responsibility evasion for integration of people into the high trust commons, from which the liberty of their stupid fucking thinking is made possible. Was that followable at all?
Well, I think so, but it's hard to say with this rarefied crowd present immediately. It's hard to say if that was followable. I think it was. But the issue is this, it's quite interesting, is that the generation of demand for authority by this responsibility avoidance creates opportunities for rent seeking at the expense of the commons.
Yeah, I think of it as this way. That's true. I'm just see if I can frame it in a more generalized term, like I did the other pieces of the argument, which is that every market you avoid, you create a black market for. Corruption, rent seeking, right? A demand for authority. These are all non-market activities. They're black market activities, and in other words, they're what we call cultural, but I'll call normative, behavioral black markets. Whereas if we have the market, you always had your respect, right? If you integrated into the high trust commons, right, which is you put the commons before yourself, right? You will only do that if you think everyone else is going to put the commons before yourself. Why? Because it takes less than 10% defectors to break any moral code, right? It takes in the single digit percent of defectors to actually break the willingness of people to contribute to a commons. So we have done that. We've exceeded that number of people by immigration that are willing to fully adapt and integrate. And whenever that happens, you disincentivize those previous people who have now spent all that money, in other words, not money, but all psychological and behavioral cost on contributing to the commons by self-deprivation.
It's costly, but you can't buy it.
Correct. It's well, you can buy it with not doing, right? And so they don't want to.
You can't buy it with money. These people think they can buy status with money. You're looking at a crowd of a whole set of humans that think if they are redistributed enough money, their status will go up.
Okay, that's okay.
And it will not. You can't buy it.
No, you can buy it via negativa. You can buy it by not doing things, yes, right? Which is integrating, right? And then not seizing out every opportunity for self-gratification, right? Which is impulse regulation.
Yeah.
So the problem is the lower the IQ moves, right, and the more anti-neotenic your population is. How do you like that? I avoid the race question that way. The anti-neotenic your question. and how anti-divergent your neotenic population is, meaning how self-regulatory they are, then you get in the position of, well, you're out, the worse that gets, the harder it is to pay the tax of discipline necessary for the self-regulation to prevent yourself from seizing opportunities that should otherwise be left alone and not seized, therefore increasing the quality of the commons, which then allows the hot trust to develop, from which economic and social and political velocity occurs, and from the result of which is a high quality commons, which reduces your cost rather than increases your need for income. And that's what the Europeans do. We decrease all these costs by paying behavioral taxes. And so
it's important to recognize this for the audience, that this is not was not an intentional effect. This was an incidental function that occurred accidentally in historical context.
If you can manage to maintain sovereignty, in other words, the prohibition on authority, you can get here. The problem is, who can do that? Right? Again, Rudyard put out this great piece on family structure, which is the best demonstrated measurement of social maturity. And he just did this yesterday, the day before, whatever. And he covers those places where they have dictatorships. Well, of course they do, because they have military dictatorships that everybody's fine with. Why? Because there is no social institution other than the family. Right? Well, so why are these places poor? Well, because there's no social institution other than the family. We used to pick on the Middle East when I was young, right? Because they can't, if it isn't a family size organization, you can't have it, because everybody's trying to lie, cheat, and steal from everybody else in the organization, as well as every input in every network effect in and out of the institution, like whatever relationship coming in and out of the institution. So everything's a family business, which is why they're poor and everything's expensive. Right? Well, the whole trick is, of course, I could go after the Jews again and say they mastered scale organized crime, which was their contribution to the medieval world, is the mastery of organized crime, soft organized crime. And just like the gypsies are masters of soft organized crime. Right? And so the problem in the Middle East is they can't organize anything. The problem in China is they can only organize things in certain ways, because they can only organize certain familiar hierarchies, there's a you can't object. In other words, you can't compete, and so it ends up being China. India is a weird fucking place, right? I mean, every class is a corporation, and every class and every region is a corporation that has a contract with every other class for goods and services that have been relatively immutable for, I don't know, 2,000, 2,500 years or something like that. So they sort of stagnate too, and it's like Americans. Why do we do things so much faster? And everybody looks at us as like we're crazy and rude and bad, whatever it is. It's that openness that's the good, right? It's all this dirty, truthful laundry in public that allows us to adapt so quick. The problem is that we used to regulate dirty laundry to truth, and now unfortunately, Christianity, which is a religion like all religions, let the camel's nose into the tent by permitting the, I don't want to say falsehood, but permitting fundamentalism and we couldn't therefore prohibit falsehood without actually prohibiting Christianity. So we've had this nose in the tent problem that wasn't true for Stoicism. It is true for Christianity. Yet, as other people say, the problem is that it takes a high IQ and an almost male personality, or to practice a Stoicism, which is the the more masculine version of the you know, secular humanism is a feminine version of Stoicism. And so the problem is, if we can make Stoicism like Buddhism into a religion, into a pretty rigorous religion, behavioral disciplining system, but we have to pay the cost of that religion indoctrination, like we pay the cost of education. Whereas Christianity doesn't. You just go there and repeat and stuff and live in your family, and so you can be indoctrinated into it this without the high cost of education into it. So we have all these fucking problems. So, but we've got trifunctionalism, which leaves the door open, and then we've got Christianity that leaves the door open, and then we haven't done what we've talked about, which is outlaw falsehood, at least in the political sphere, sufficient to prevent political fraud. Whereas we're probably going to allow psychological fraud, in other words, religion, because some people just fucking need it. Did I go on too much of an arc there, or was that understandable?
That was good.
Okay. Brandon? Was it followable?
I followed you.
Okay. Well, like Brad said, we may be a bad audience.
Oh. Now there was a cartoon that I saw, which was the father talking to his son on the park bench. And the son asked the father, says, "Dad, is Santa fake?" And that's the father leans over and says, son, think about it. How many people would have to be in on that for that to be true?
I just ruined my life.
The meme people are just awesome. Those guys don't mess with cartoonists, okay? That's the rule.
Killing me. Can I have to go wash my eyes again. Can I pause this for a minute?
Yes. I thought we were.
So I went off to, what did I go to do? I went off to wash my eyes, my face.
Yes.
And then we went on a side trip. It was sort of like a boys' night out or something. I'd administrative trivia. So, but we can't have. I don't think we have any more topics because there's not enough going on over the holiday week to sort of start any trouble with, right?
Thank God.
So anyway, so I think we're going to wrap up the meeting at this point. Can you wrap up the meeting, Brad?
Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up, and don't forget, hit like and subscribe, hit notifications, leave some comments, and check out the donations page on the Institute's website.
All right, thank you, everyone.